Okay. Again, apologies, my camera is playing up, so you won't be seeing my face, but you'll see my little icon in the bottom corner. Okay. So the scenario that we're going through for training today is a high-risk woman who has had multiple pregnancies in the past. She'll be admitted to Argyle at 24 weeks, and it's due to an antenatal bleed. So in this scenario, she'll be coming through triage, she'll be staying with us for 48 hours, and then we'll be discharged home. Okay. So the first thing that we'll need to do in this instance is log into Athena. Okay, so I'm just going to go in here with my username and password. Okay, and that will take us into the main home screen like you would have seen from the video. Okay, so the home screen is nice and easy to navigate. Everything is separated into 5 separate tiles, purely for ease of navigation. So today we'll be focusing on the locations tile due to it being an inpatient stay. Okay, so when you click on the locations tile, first it will show you all the clinics. And next you can also have a look at all your wards. And again, because it's an inpatient stay, we'll be clicking Argyle ward in this instance. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I will admit a patient, but then I'm also going to give you guys control at different points throughout the course, just so that you can go in and input some data and have a play around with the system yourselves. I can see that Charlotte and Amy, you both are able to take control. Laura, are you using a Trust laptop? And if so, are you using the browser or the app?
I'm on a Trust laptop and I'm on a browser.
Right, okay. So that's fine for this session because it's only a short one. But if you are doing any sessions after this one, you'll need to just ensure that you have it downloaded just so that you can actually take control during the course. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is if I go to the search button here. Okay, in the video, this will have been a admit woman button. It's the exact same thing. Okay, so once you click this, you will have the option to search for your patient and then admit them to your ward. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just type in the hospital patient ID here, click the search button. Okay, then it'll just ask me to confirm that this is the woman that I want. In this case, we'll say yes. Okay. So when you're inputting the details of the admission, the first thing it'll say is make sure you complete a risk assessment. So we will complete that as soon as the patient has been admitted. Okay, so you can see here the visit date and time. It automatically populates to the current time, okay, or the time that you opened the document. Now I can see here because it's actually 9:18. If I do want to update it to the current time now, I can just select this button and it will automatically populate it with the current time. Okay, so what I'll say again is that we're aiming to discharge this lady between now and Friday, so we'll say the 27th. Okay, and it is an antenatal inpatient stay. This patient will be coming in from triage and has asked to come in by a midwife. Okay, so one thing you'll see on this screen here is the circular selection buttons here. If we go on to the next page, you can see that these buttons are now squares. The only difference between that is that with the circular ones, you can only select one at a time. And with the square ones, you can select however many you need to. Okay. But like I said, with the scenario that we'll be using, this woman has come in with antenatal bleeding, so I'll just select this one here. Okay, and it is also an emergency admission. Are you guys happy with that? Yep. If you do have any questions at any point, just feel free to raise your hand using the buttons at the top. Likewise, you can also react if you're happy with something and give me a thumbs up like this as well. Okay. So if I go on to the next screen, what I'm going to do is just type in patient is high risk. Okay, and you'll notice here that when I select the box, it goes green. That's a common theme with the system. It's not to tell you if something is safe or not. It's purely to tell you that you have selected that box. So just because you see something's green, it doesn't mean it's fine. It just means you've selected that box and you're inputting data into that box specifically. Okay, so I've clicked finish, and I'm not sure if you've noticed, but my lady hasn't actually appeared on the screen here. Okay, and that's because we've not actually assigned her to a bed on the ward yet. So if I scroll down to the bottom, okay, we can see Sasha West is sitting here at the bottom of the screen. So if I want to admit her to a bed, what I want to do is click the three-dot menu here and select the assign to bed option. And then it will bring me up a list filled with my occupied and unoccupied bed spaces. Okay, so I'm going to admit her to bed E because that one is unoccupied. And then if I scroll up, you can see she's appeared here now. Okay, another thing you might notice on this screen is that you do have some yellow boxes and the other ones are blank. If a box is yellow, all that's telling you is that this patient has gone past the target discharge date. So it's just highlighting that for you. Okay, any questions about admitting a patient? No? Okay. Another point I will mention is that if you do accidentally admit somebody to a bed that is occupied, it isn't the end of the world because all it will do is kick the former person out of the bed and send them to the bottom. And all you'll need to do is go back to the three-dot menu and click unassigned bed and then reassign the initial person.
Will it be able to show you beds that have kind of like been pre-booked for like inductions or what have you? People that aren't yet there, but.
So we actually had this question yesterday. So you can't do that on Athena, but what you could do is reserve beds in the same way that you would now. So for example, actually write it on a board so you're aware that somebody will be using that bed and then just booking them in when they get there. So yeah, unfortunately you can't reserve it on Athena. It's just a case of making sure you're aware of it elsewhere and then admitting them through the system.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we're going to do now that they've been admitted is go back to the three-dot menu here. And on the live system, this will likely have a bunch of quick tasks as well. So you haven't actually got to enter the notes to find certain information. For example, you may be able to click this button here and find your SBAR history straight away. Now, for the sake of training, what we're going to do is essentially the same thing. We're going to access it the long way around. So what you want to do is, because it's an inpatient stay, select the inpatient notes here. Okay. The view notes option, if I quickly show you, will show you all the notes and all the information from the whole pregnancy. Whereas what we want to look at, okay, is just the information relevant to this specific inpatient stay. Okay, so once I've done that, the first thing I'm going to do is check the SBAR history, and you'll find that under the management tab here. Okay, and then if I scroll down, you can see it there. Okay, so you've got SBAR and your histories. Okay, so this is blank at the moment because they are test patients and we don't really have any data on them. But when you are interacting with real patients on the live system, this should have more information in there for you as well. Okay, are you happy with the SBAR? Again, feel free to just chuck me a thumbs up if you don't want to keep muting and unmuting your microphones. Bro, thank you. Okay, so if I go back to the admission screen, what I'm going to quickly show you now is the inpatient stay details. So all the information that we inputted when we were admitting her to the ward, it will all be populated here at the top. And you'll notice a common theme with the system is all of the most current or most recent data is always at the top, and then previous data admissions are at the bottom. Okay. So now that we've checked the SBAR, we've had a quick look at the inpatient stay details. What I'm going to do now is perform a risk assessment. And this is where I'm going to give one of you control. So if I have a look at my screen, Amy, what I'll do is I'll volunteer you first. So if I select you here and you wave your mouse along my screen, we should see start floating around in a second. There we go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do then is complete an overall risk assessment. Again, at the top here, you can see a record of the most recent one. And all your previous ones here will populate at the bottom. This is just an overall risk assessment. All of your specific risk assessments will be available at the side here. Okay, so Amy, if you want to select Add New here. Yep. And again, before we enter the risk assessment, it will also give you the option to check previous risk assessment histories here as well. Okay, so Amy, if you'd like to select next here. Okay, so it's just an overall assessment of pregnancy risk. So we're just going to go through here and say, yes, the pregnancy is still high risk. Okay, all relevant risk assessments have been undertaken and updated. So that's a yes. The correct care pathway has been selected. So we can select yes for this one. Okay, the care and support plan has been discussed with the woman and agreed. So you can select yes here as well. And the chosen place of birth is still appropriate for this one. Okay, and the type of place of birth is still appropriate as well. Okay, so you can see here all the information regarding things like current care pathway, type of care, intended place of birth, and type of intended place of birth. And this information will pull through from the patient being booked in. Okay, so if you want to select next. Okay, and in the text box, if you want to just type all details have been checked and are appropriate. Okay, and then select finish here. Brill. So what I'll do is take control back. Okay, and again, you can see the most recent one at the top has populated this area. Okay, and all your previous ones are at the bottom. And you can read the information just by clicking on the hyperlinks. Any questions about your risk assessments?
Obviously, where it says all relevant risk assessments have taken place, are we then still expected to go down all of the individual risk assessments on the left to confirm that we've done that?
In terms of maternity processes, I can't help too much on that side. So what I can do is I can drop in the contact details. Hold on. I'll drop these in now and I'll also reiterate at the end of the course. Yeah. But we do have sorry, carry on.
No, all I was going to say is, like, presumably if they're on Argyle, then VTE, like the preterm, because she's 25 weeks, the pressure also handed, like there's quite a lot of risk assessments then to complete that. So how do we know what we're expected to do? Well, they'll tell us, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. So what I've done is I dropped the digital support email into the chat. So that's the one you can go to if you have any questions kind of regarding processes or parts of the system kind of outside of the scope of the antenatal inpatient side as well.
Perfect.
Okay. Right, so what we'll do now then is we'll go back to the admissions screen and just go through a couple more steps now that she's been admitted. We check the S-bar and a risk assessment has taken place. Okay, so what I'm going to do first when I go back is have a look at the ward orientation. Okay, so here I'm going to add a new one.
Sorry, okay. There's just someone at my door. I'll be really quick.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, gives me a second just to quickly give control over anyway. So Charlotte, if I give you control for this one, and if you just wiggle your mouse on my screen, brilliant. So now that you're on there, we'll just give it 1 second and then we'll carry on. Okay, so what we're going to do now is have a look at the ward orientation. And again, you can see here it's populated with the current time. Again, if you want to be ultra specific, Charlotte, if you want to click now, and that will update to 9:29. Okay, so the location will be maternity inpatients. Okay, so this part of the system is really useful. So if you're going through all these individual pieces of information with the patient and ticking them off as you're doing it, you can just select yes as you're going along. Or if you've gone through all of them and you just want to mark that, you can click all yes at the top here. So Charlotte, if you select all yes at the top, okay, you can see it will just mark all of them for you. Okay, so let's say I actually went through all of this with the patient at I don't know, 9:26 instead. I could change the time on here, but the actual time that I logged it on the system will always be recorded as well. Okay, so even if I say that I undertook this at 9:26, the system will know that I actually uploaded it at 9:29. Okay, so if you select finish here. Okay, brilliant. And again, the most recent ward orientation will populate at the top, and then previous ones will appear at the bottom as well. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to quickly show you, again, if we just go through, oh, sorry, Charlotte, I'll take you off my screen here as well. Okay, there we go. So you see here the target discharge date. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you pass this, it will highlight as yellow. But if for some reason you need to edit this and maybe extend it, you can also go in and do that as well. You've got your helpline contacts history, so any calls that the patient has made into triage will be recorded here. So it's all in one central place for you to have a look through. You've got things like your consultation history, but then also a really useful part of the system is the admittance narrative. So I believe this part of the system is the most similar to your current paper notes, I believe. So everything that happens will be automatically logged onto this part from admittance to discharge. But you can also go in, okay, and add notes yourself as well throughout. So what I'm going to do is go in, and again the box has gone green because I've selected it, is just type in admitted to ward, orientation explained, plan discussed, what BD, CT, CTG, and observations. Okay, so once I've done that, you can see here as well I have the option to set it as either regular, important, or very important. So just to show you, I'm going to quickly set it as important here and then select finish. And you can see then that's putting a little star next to it just to highlight that for you. If I selected very important, that would then become a red star instead. Okay, so I click finish here. And again, you can see that's populated on the admittance narrative as well. The admittance narrative is also really useful because if you select the audit option here, you can see who input information and when. And you can also filter out information. So if you just want to see everything on your to-do list, for example, then you can filter it out. Okay. Again, the good thing with this system is it doesn't like you hiding information and not knowing about it. So if you have filtered anything out, it will tell you at the top, just giving you a warning that some things have been hidden and warning you to take the filters off as well. Okay. So do you have any questions about anything so far? No? Brilliant. So the next thing I'll quickly show you as well, which Francesca wanted me to highlight for you guys, is because this patient has come through triage, you'll also find BSOT's information here as well. Okay, through the management tab. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to give one of you control again, and we're going to have a look at completing a set of Muse obs. So if I click here, you can see the whole Muse chart. Nothing's been added to it yet, so it's still completely blank. But you can enter your full set of Muse obs just by clicking this option here. Okay, so Amy, I'll give you control again. If I can see you. Yeah, there we go. So what we'll do now is add a new Muse observation. Okay, so we don't need to click now because it's automatically populated with the current times. That's fine. If we go in then, and if you type in 37 for the temperature. Okay, bro. But what I'm going to quickly do is just hijack control for just a second, just to show you a feature on the system. So like I said, when you see green, that doesn't mean anything in terms of risk level or concern. But if I were to go in and type 37.5, you can see here this has now gone yellow. If I were to edit it and type in 38, it's gone red. Okay, so as you're inputting information, the system will tell you whether or not there's any cause for concern. But please bear in mind, it's not there to override your clinical judgment. It's just there to help support it. Okay, so if we carry on, the respiratory rate is 12 breaths per minute. O2 saturation is 98%. Okay, the heart rate is 90 beats per minute. Okay, blood pressure is 120/80. Yeah. Okay, so for the neurological response, we'll select that Sasha is alert in this case, and the estimated urine output is more than 50 mils in the last 2 hours. Okay, so you can see here it gives you an indication of the total scores based on the information that you put in. If we go next, yep, you can see here it reminds you of the scores and then gives you almost a flowchart to follow along with. Okay, so if you've had a minimum of 1 yellow, you follow this procedure. If you've had 1 red or 2 yellows, you'd follow this one here. Again, it is just there to help support your clinical judgment. It's not there to replace it. Okay, so if you've gone to the next screen, here we can just say continue usual care because everything's determined to be normal, everything's fine. Okay, and then we'll go on to the next screen. Okay, so here you'd have the option to enter your fluid balance. We're not going to do it for this scenario, but I'll also highlight you can do it here, and there's also the option to do it along the side here as well. Okay, so if you click finish here, and if I click back to the Muse chart, again, I'll quickly take control back. You can see that's plotted along here now. So this is really useful. So if anything is declining and going into the yellows or reds, you'll see it straight away. Okay. Some people have asked if there's just one thing you want to check. So for example, if you just want to monitor the heart rate, you can also go in and input these individually as well. Any questions for the Muse obs? Happy with it? Okay, brilliant. So what I'm going to do next then is complete an investigation for this patient. Okay, so if we go onto the investigations tab, you can see here a history of all the investigations that have been ordered, and then the option to offer a new one. So I'll do the first one and then I'll hand it over and one of you guys can do the next one. So we're going to go to new investigation offer and then click hematology. And what I'm going to do now is request a full blood count. Okay. Again, sometimes, so for example, here it says 9:37, it's actually 9:38. So what I'm going to do is click now. So yes, it has been explained and offered and it has been accepted. And this part is quite useful. So what you can do is either start typing in your name. So for example, we use training 1 in this case. If you start typing in your name and you can't find it, you can also click the find option here, find your group, okay, and select your name from those groups as well. Okay, if I go next, I'll say yes, it has been ordered. It's been ordered now. It's been ordered by training 1. Yes, a sample has been taken. It's been taken now. And that's also been taken by training 1. Okay, so we'll do a full blood count there and we'll also offer a group and save as well. So Charlotte, I'll give you control of the screen again. If I can just see if, yep, I can see you. So we click new investigation offer here. Okay, and then again go to hematology from the drop down, and from there you can select group and save. Yep. Okay, so the time, that's fine, we don't need to do anything. So explained and offered, yes. It's been accepted. Okay, and it was offered by training 1. So if you just type in 1. Training 1 here. Okay, if we've gone to the next page. Ordered, yes. Okay, ordered by training 1. Okay, again on this page, sample taken, yes. And the sample was taken by training 1 as well. Okay, so if you select finish here. Okay, and again you can see that's populated at the top. Okay, so if I take control back. So with the investigation offers, it's really important that you're aware of the fact that this doesn't automatically order it for you. So you're recording that you've ordered it on the system, but the system won't then go and order that investigation for you. Okay, you still need to do that according to your current processes. Athena and ICM do communicate with one another, but it's a one-way system. So information that you input into Athena won't pull through to ICM, but information entered into ICM will pull through to Athena. Okay, so when results do come in, you should be able to find them here as well. Okay, so on top of your investigations ordered, you can also see a history of all the offers. So for example, you can also see ones that may not have been accepted. Okay, and you can also see a history of all of your samples as well. Any questions about that part? No? Okay. So what we're going to say then, again, in this scenario is based on the outcomes of the blood test that we've just done, we'll say that it can be determined that this woman needs an IV. So if you go to procedures here, and here you can see iron IV preparation at the side. Okay, so again, if I hand this back over to Amy, if I give you this one here, anywhere that you can see that pencil lets you know that you can go in and edit it. Okay, so if you select this option here, okay, yep, and we'll say the time of occurrence is now, that's fine, it is the current time anyway, it's a drip infusion, and the dose is 500. Okay, the type of medication is Ferinject for this one. Okay, and then here we're going to say procedure discussed and consent obtained, yes. Patient is okay to start procedure, yes. Prescription completed correctly, yes. Okay, and then yes and yes for the bottom ones here. And we'll say it's also been prescribed by training 1. So if you just type in 1. Okay, so if we go next, now it's going to quickly complete the pre-procedure obs. So we'll say the date and time of the procedure observations and now. Large cuff used, yes. And again, it's still 120/80 for this one. Okay, we'll just click now for the time that the procedure was commenced as well. Yep, so if you click that one. I appreciate all the timings may not be 100% clinically accurate, but we're just going to give you a rough idea for the system. Okay, so for the pulse rate, we'll say that the pulse rate is 90. The temperature is still 37. And the respiratory rate is 12. Okay, reviewed by training 1. So you can see training 1 is a really, really busy person. Okay, and then we'll just type in all okay in the box here. And then finish. Okay, so here you can see date and time of the procedure commenced, the pre-procedure obs, and you've also got the option then to go in and edit your mid-procedure obs and post-procedure obs as well. Okay, so a good question that we've had in the past, if I can take control back. So a good question that we've had in the past is asking if the system will automatically then record that this patient's been given a medication, because we have said then from the IV that they've been given Ferinject. Short answer is no, you do need to go and make sure you're recording it as well. So just so you are aware, you will still be using paper drug charts, but it's just important that we are also keeping the electronic record of the medications that have been given as well. So there are a couple ways of doing this. So with the inpatient notes, you can access the Med tab through pop-ups. So for example, if you do a risk assessment or a management plan, when you get the pop-ups, you can then access the pills icon at the top. But the easiest way to do this is to go back to the ward view, okay, and then go in and view the overall patient notes, and then you can see the meds tab right here at the top. Okay, but I will show you as we go along with a few more parts of the course how it will appear in the pop-ups as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is click the meds tab here, add a drug, just detail what the drug is. And just for the sake of ease, I'm going to say it's an ongoing, and it's been started today. Okay, so if I finish that, and then this will be added to the patient's drugs record. So if I select save, you can see now there's a small 1 above the drugs icon, and if you hover over it, it just says to you that a single drug has been entered. Okay, so if I go back into her inpatient notes, okay, do you have any questions about anything we've gone through so far? No? Okay, so we're going to take a look at now. So I'm going to do another procedure. I'm going to have a look at the abdominal palpation. Okay, so if I go here, one thing to be aware of is this drop down at the top. So if you select all records from pregnancy, the Add New button will disappear. So if you go onto the system and for some reason you can't find your Add New button, just check this to make sure that you are looking at the records from this hospital stay specifically. Okay, so Charlotte, I'll give you control of this one. Okay, there we are. I can see on my screen. And then we'll say Add New. Okay, so date and time of palpation, that's automatically populated, that's fine. And we'll say yes, abdomen has been palpated. Reason for palpation is appropriate for gestation. Okay, the fundal height is 25 centimeters. And fetal movements have been discussed. Okay, so the lie is longitudinal, free engagement, and a cephalic presentation. Okay, and the LICA appears within normal range. Okay, so it's all fine. We don't need to add any comments, and we'll go next. Okay, so for this one, some people in previous sessions have said, well, maybe at 24, 25 weeks, you might not be able to tell. So you can either say could not be determined, or you can skip it. For the sake of training, we're just going to say that miraculously we can tell, and it's this one. Okay, so if you go finish here, and there you can see information regarding your abdominal palpations there as well. I have had another question as well, which I'll quickly show you. So some previous attendees have said that when it comes to OBS, obviously you're completing them when you do the INIV prep, for example. Will that populate on the Muse chart? And the answer to that is no. So just the Muse OBS will populate on the chart. However, you will have a record here of observations that have been taken. Okay, so you can see here that abdominal palpation has been recorded, as has the information that was recorded when we did the INIV prep as well. Any questions about anything so far? No? Okay, so the next thing I'll do then is go to the CTGs. So that'll be under fetal assessments. So it is really important to be aware of the fact that the CTGs are mainly handled through the Guardian system. And if you'll be using the Guardian system, then your training will be next week. However, Guardian and Athena are constantly communicating with one another. So one example of that would be, I believe we admitted Sasha to bed space E, for example, on Argyle. If I went onto Guardian and went into that bed space on Guardian, it will automatically know that she's there. Okay. Likewise, on Guardian, that's where I'm going to start off the CTG and conduct CTG reviews, and I can monitor it through Athena. Just give it a second to load. Okay, so it's completely blank at the moment because it's not actually being used on anyone, but this is where you'll see the information pull through from Guardian. Okay, any questions about the CTGs? No? Lovely. So what we'll do now is...
Well, sorry. So if we're going to add like notes to the CTG, we add it on Guardian, not on Athena.
Yeah, so you add your notes and everything on Guardian.
Fine.
I do believe as well, however, if I go back here to the admittance narrative, firstly, you can see it's populated with more information, but I do believe that if I say add note and then free text, there is the option here as well. So if I just say, okay, and then finish that. So yeah, for example, it did give me the option to display it on the CTG. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to start the process of discharging the patient. So what I'm going to do is another risk assessment. Okay, but before we do that, what I'm going to do, again, all the previous risk assessments are here and you can select them for more information. What I'm going to do before we go in and enter another overall risk assessment is I'm just going to quickly show you the risk flower at the top. So can you remember what the pink flower means and what the other colour codes are for the flowers as well?
Isn't it?
Yep, so pink is high risk.
Green for low risk.
Yep, so green is low risk, and then if you see a grey one, it just means data hasn't been entered yet, so there's no record of whether it's high or low risk on the system. Okay, but if I click onto the risk flower here, this is how I can see kind of what all the current active risks actually are. Okay, so you can see here preterm birth high risk, preterm birth intermediate risks, high BMI, and smoking concerns as well. What I'm going to do is say, based on the investigations from this inpatient stay, we'll say that the mother has been diagnosed with anemia in pregnancy as well. I'll say, yes, it's been diagnosed today. And to make my life so much easier, I'm just going to copy and paste this information into the box. Okay, so if I finish this here, okay, you can then see another risk has been added to all the active risks at the top, saying anemia in pregnancy as well. It's also worth being aware that with some of the risks, you will receive a prompt to complete a specific risk assessment. So for example, if I went into the add risks option and selected preeclampsia, for example, oh, it's frozen. Oh, there we go. It will just prompt me then to complete an actual risk assessment for it. Okay, but I'm not going to do that now. Okay, so now that I've added another active risk, what I'm going to go do is go in and complete another risk assessment. Oh, there you go, and I'll give control to Amy again. Okay, so we're just going to go through and select yes to all of these again. Okay, and then select next. And then in the comments box, you can just type all details have been checked and are still appropriate. Okay, and then finish here. Okay. So again, most recent risk assessment is at the top, and then all of your previous ones are all detailed below. Okay, so we have one final step before discharging this patient, and that'll be going through the management tab here. Quick question, I do have a flashing C in the corner here. Can you remember what that's telling me?
It's safeguarding information.
Yeah, essentially. So what it is more broadly, is it's confidential information. So it just means that if I want to see anything that's been hidden here, so for example, if I go to confidential mode and authenticate, you can see here, okay, for example, safeguarding notes have appeared, okay, as well as other confidential pieces of information as well. And you'll know you're in confidential mode because it goes pink at the top. If I click this, it'll go back to blue and we're back into non-confidential mode. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just update the patient's management plans before we discharge them. Okay, and Charlotte, I'll give you control here as well. So what we're going to do is just select Add New Management Plan at the top. Okay, and then select Management Plan there as well. Okay, so we'll say it's an antenatal plan. The plan was made during an inpatient episode, and it was made face-to-face. Okay, we'll say it has been agreed with the woman, and the applicability is 28 weeks. Okay, the plan author in this case will just say training 1. Okay, what I'm going to do to make everyone's life easier is I'm just going to copy and paste the information into the text box here. Okay. So full blood count at 28 weeks, low threshold for triage, to continue consultant-led care, and has a consultant appointment. A couple more things I'll show you on this page before we select finish is you do have the options here to make confidential or prominent, or confidential and prominent as well. Okay, so if you select prominent, it will just highlight it with the star like you've seen before. If you select confidential, then it'll be found in confidential mode. Okay, alternatively, if it's an important piece of information that also has to be confidential, you can click both. Okay, so if you select finish here, okay, what I'll also do, like I said, we've got plenty of time. What I'll also do is add another one quickly and just show you. And I'll make this one confidential just so I can show you what it looks like. Okay, so you'll see it hasn't appeared on your management plans, but a C has appeared at the top. Okay, so if you ever see that flashing C, it's just telling you there's more information hidden here and you need to enter confidential mode to find it. Okay, so the last thing to do now will be to discharge the woman.
Just quick,
yes.
When we've added a new management plan, I think when we did the other session, Francesca said that we need to add it as an action as well. Is that the same for when we're discharging them from the ward?
I
don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what she said.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not 100% with processes.
Okay.
But we can double check with
Francesca.
Francesca.
Was it a task or something? She said add it as a task.
You do have, if I quickly go back, you do have your tasks here as well. So I'm not sure if that's what she's referring to.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But yeah,
I'll ask, yeah.
Yeah, if you shoot the email address a question, they should be able to help with that part. Okay, so I'll go back into her notes. What I'm going to do now is just discharge her from the ward. So again, you can see the pencil here and the hyperlink. I'm just going to click that. The system here is reminding me to complete a risk assessment, which we've already done. So that's fine. I can go next. I can say, yes, drugs were prescribed, being discharged because she's well, and she's going home and has a follow-up arranged at the hospital. Okay, and the system again is quite good at reminding you to do things. So here it's just saying, because we've indicated the drugs have been prescribed, just make sure that we've updated the meds tab. Okay. So if I select OK here, okay, and then we go back to the ward, she's disappeared now. So do you have any questions? I am aware the sessions are way shorter than we've put the time out for, but it's just so there's kind of leeway at either side, and you've also got time to play around with the system as well. But yeah, do you have any questions, or is there anything you want to go through again? We've got plenty of time for me to show you. Now, what I'll do then is I'll stop the recording now. Okay.